Now, I bet you thought that to own a classic car, you had to be big enough to drive. Well, for the classic cars at this meeting, you only have to be big enough to reach the pedals. In this case, size really does matter.
Conceived by Leonard Lord, chairman of Austin Motors, the J40 provided jobs for disabled Welsh miners back in the 50s. In over 20 years, they produced more than 32,000 of the miniature marvels. One of the original designers, Alfred Ashe, was given a very specific brief to work to. He used his 8-year-old daughter as a test driver.
It was to be like Dad's car. It had got to have a bonnet that lifted up and a dummy engine underneath. It's got to have a boot that would hold things, open up and hold things, and proper upholstery, an instrument panel, and above all, it had got to have working lights and a working horn and a working brake. Dad's car, in other words, in miniature. I was only one with the daughter with the child the right size, my daughter Marcia. And so I measured her up, joint to joint, knees bent, elbows bent, and so we made a cardboard jointed model with all the joints working, and we used that to get the size of the car and the position of the pedals and clearance for the knees when they came up and down and things like that.
Alongside the rarer Pathfinder, which was based on the mid-30s Austin 7 racing car, the J40 has been a favourite with kids ever since, and the enthusiasm is passed down through generations.
This is Ben's car. He had his car for his 3rd birthday, which was 2 years ago, and he's been taking it to car rallies throughout the south of England this year.
Obviously, for his 3rd birthday, it was probably more your interest of them, was it, than his?
It was really, yes. When I was a little boy of Ben's age, my father bought me one, and he restored it for me, and really that's where it's come from. The boys love it. Ben loves pedalling around. He doesn't get much chance at home on the grass, on the tarmac. He can pedal faster.
With me is David Wiley, the owner of the Austin Devon that's parked behind us, which the J40 was based on. David, how long have you had the Devon for?
I bought the Devon in 1983, bought it as our everyday transport. Basically, as a small child, I dreamed of owning a J40 pedal car, but my family could never afford one. So when I grew up, I decided I'd like to buy the real thing. We bought the Devon and used it as our everyday car. And then when we had our children, I went all out to get a J40 pedal car for my daughters and restore it.
What are the similarities that have been brought over to the J40 from the Devon?
Well, it's interesting that the J40 was actually built to use some of the scrap metal that was left over from pressing out the large cars. So you can imagine when they press out the windscreen on a large car, they got lots of metal left. So Leonard Lord, the chairman of the Austin Motor Company, had the idea of using the scrap metal to actually produce a junior version. So they styled it. The front end is an exact miniature of the Austin Devon. And when you lift the bonnet up on a J40, you've got a little miniature engine in place. And they even used the broken spark plugs that they couldn't use on the real cars to actually put in the fake engine on the J40.
Of course, a lot of J40s need restoring to return them to this condition, and they do turn up in some unusual places.
Well, I found the shell of it in a flea market in Salisbury, and I told him, and I said I'd go and see how much it is the next morning, and it was gone. And 6 months later, it appeared on the doorstep for Richard's birthday, but I had nothing to do with the restoration. He did it in secret. And I began to wonder whatever he was doing at midnight out in Broadchalk somewhere in a barn. And it wasn't until the day before Richard's birthday I suddenly cottoned on to what he'd done.
When I initially saw it, it looked fairly complete, but when I actually got to work on it, it was a different story. It needed quite a lot of welding and strengthening, and then availability of parts. We had to get some parts. Fortunately, there's a gentleman called Roy Halford, and he does reproduce parts for the J40, so it did make it a lot easier. All the front of Richard's car is all new. It's all reproduced chrome, which was a great
help, really. Otherwise you wouldn't get it done. I think the original parts are quite hard to get because they're mainly being battered around, you see, used as pedal cars for children.
I came here first time and I went, I came here again, then I won again, and this is my third time, and I brought my friend, and she's won this time.
So you're sharing the winning, are you? So Amy, it was your first time of driving today. What did you think of it?
It was brilliant.
Is it really good fun?
Yeah.
It must wear your legs out though, doesn't it?
Yeah.